when I started the sharing knowledge course, which the partners in policy-making course, I was in a very different place as I find myself now. I was just about to come homeless, and I didn't exist to the real world. I was invisible. I'll just explain to those who don't know what partners in policy-making is. Partners in policy-making is a leading national course for parents with children with disabilities and also adults with disabilities to learn how to get things from their services, but also local authorities to work together with people who are receiving them. Next slide, please. As a youngster, I felt restricted. My mother, were always doing more things than me. My mum said, "You have a disability." And as a parent, as a child with a disability, I'm working with parents with children with disabilities for 3 years now that I've become a self-advocate. You wrap your child in cotton wool, but you have a child with a disability. You kind of give them that extra layer because it's the most safest place for you to put them in. Next slide, please. My brothers, Wayne and Thomas, my older and younger brothers can do it, but I can't. I felt really isolated at home, but when my mum let me go to the shops when I was 13, the bit of the cotton wool was unwrapping. So she let me go to the post office, and I thought I could take this a little bit further. So I asked my mum if I could go into town. Next minute she said, "No, you'll get lost, you won't know what you're doing." So I left it for a number of years. Next slide, please. Year 11, I went through special education through all my adult life. So when I was in year 11, my teacher said, "We are going to do some independent travelling with you. We are going to put you on the bus with some teachers first. And when you feel confident to be able to do it by yourself, we'll look at numbers of buses and timetables with you." I know this for a couple of months and weeks, but 2 days before I was going to do this, I told my mum. And next minute she freaked out. What's this? So I went into a town with my friend for a number of weeks. Then I went on the school bus in the morning, then made myself to travel home independently when I finished school. And this went on for a number of years. She kind of got the idea of me travelling independently into town. These days, I don't remember the last time I was on a bus these days, but she let me go. Next slide, please. Life after college, I went to college for 2 years and did the vocational courses, whatever some people with a disability do. Through college, I joined Berry EST, Employment and Support and Training. In my mind, they have to help a young adult with a disability to find work. I wanted to find work like everybody else. I wanted to earn my own money like everybody else. So through that, I did 2 work placements. The first one was in Matalan. I didn't like Matalan. I was working on the men's department, folding jumpers, which is impossible to do with my condition, but I fooled them. And I also put the boxes in order. And every day, this is all I seem to be doing, folding jumpers and putting boxes in order. So in my mind, I call myself Boxer Man, because that's all I seem to be doing. You get that, you're doing that. I did that for 2 weeks. My second placement was at Ethel Austin's. Working on the men's department, still folding jumpers, everybody, still folding jumpers. And also working, but I liked it because I liked it a little bit because it took time to explain more things to do when I also worked in the men's department. This is what I didn't want to do when I wanted to work. I wanted to work in the media or do something in disability. My advocates at the time, Debbie is one of my auntie's good friends. She had a son with complex needs herself. Debbie, Denise said to Debbie, is there anything what William needed to do? So she mentioned the Sharing Knowledge course, which was starting in September of '09, and she said I could go on it. This is when my life really started to change. Debbie has a son with complex needs herself. She knows what it's like. Next slide, please. I met Sue in 2009. She helped me with some PowerPoints. She facilitated my path, planning alternatives with Mall of Hope, which I'll get onto in a second. She helped me move in on my home on the 4th of February 2010. She helped me get my PAs, and at that time I've begun helping me at work. In a second I'll mention the path, but without Sue and Debbie, I wouldn't be here today. They saw something in me and started to advocate for me, because when I was younger, my mum and dad didn't know where to turn to get the help. We didn't have a social worker until I was 20 years old. But my mum did all the battles like parents do. Next slide. Planning Alternatives with Mall of Hope, PATH for short, was designed by 3 people in America and Canada in the late 80s. A guy called John O'Brien and a guy called Jack Pierpoint and a lady called Marsha Forrest. They wanted to help their friend Judy Snow at the time, so they came up with PATH, Planning Alternatives, and it's for and it's for people with a disability, but you don't have to have a disability to have a PATH. So at the time, weeks before, my family said, "What's this? What are we going to next week?" And I said, "You just have to wait and see." So Sue started to facilitate my dreams and hopes and aspirations. Then we worked back on that. And so my dreams came out like I wanted to go to bowling, I wanted to go on holiday, general things what a 20-year-old wants to do. I wanted to go to America. I wanted two cars, one for winter and one for summer. But I just got the one. I can't drive, but it doesn't mean my PA's drive for me. So we worked back on the dreams of our aspirations. And we kind of get people to walk into it to help you get to your goals. And my auntie, who kind of took a back step in my life with my uncle, really saw what PATH can do, and she took me shopping for my furniture. And now we have a good relationship. She does my finances, helps out. But you may be saying, yes, you're a person with a disability who can communicate by speech. I am. But this is also can work with people who don't use speech to communicate. There has been good results of people having autism, for example, of those who know them know what they're like. And the young person who's present and just walks in and out, it just means the young person is still present. But people around them is the best person to know them. Next slide, please. I am a South African. I work to make changes to people's lives. I work for Berry Parent Partnership sometimes. I facilitate the disability work with the various schools in South Africa. I work with the self-directed support team, giving them different advice on self-directed support. I also work for other services around for raising awareness of personalisation. I do work for NENCAP, but as a learning disability consultant, now Chasers support and project support, where I work with young people in workshops to inspire them for what they want to do in the future. I am one of 10 ambassadors for the Council for Near Disabled Children, and we represent young people across the UK. And we did a campaign on attitudes towards disability last year, and made a film, and it has reached a lot of views on YouTube, and also we took it to Parliament and it got ways in Parliament there as well. I also work for ALFI, the Alliance for Inclusive Education, where I'm one of young researchers into social care, and we was actually talking about the SAN Green Paper this weekend to see what our researcher views into it. Next slide, please. My PAs, this is where my individual budget goes on, combined with self-directed support and also ILF. This is where my PAs, I use a local college called Instream Partnership, run by a guy who has a disability himself. And through the local college, he also has a PA matchmaker. So he asks me what kind of person I want to interview me. So I say a young person, an outgoing person, a person who wants to do what I want to do and interests. So he looks on his database and out comes Dominic, Connor, Jordan and Joe, he's my new PA. He's not on there yet. But he will be soon. And through the day, at the end of the day, the PA works for me. Gary's just there to do my payroll and have any issues I want to have. So Dominic has been with me for 2.5 years. He's gone to Tenerife with me. He's been to Canada and New York. And nothing gets past Dominic. So if I try to lie about anything, he knows when I'm lying. So nothing gets past him. And at the end of the day, they are my PAs, but also make up a friendship, become mates as well. But they know when to leave the PA jobs to support me. Next slide, please. In August 2010, I wanted to research into best practices into disability. I wanted to go to America and Canada to research in the best tools what they use out there. America and Canada are in front of us on a lot of things, but equally we're in front of them on personalisation to make sure a person gets a budget what they want. So the first place I went to Washington DC and visited an organisation called Poverty Trust, and they advocate for young people in the state of Cumbria. They have been running for 10 years. Before that, the court said, we'll give you part money and see you do a better idea and support people. In their organisation, they go and see people and advocate them on any legal matters, so they have their own solicitors. At the end of the year, they tally it up and said, what does this tell us about best practice? And I got something out of Poverty Trust, what stayed with me from this day. A person's disability, they said, is just a reduction, and they just have to accommodate to in their day-to-day life. And I think that's true. If you have a disability, it doesn't rule you. You know it's there, but you just adapt to it and carry on with your life. TASH has been running for 36 years. They support parents for children with disabilities and adults with disability into inclusion of education. They make sure that their child is included in every education, and they stay with them through adult lives to get a job and to do what they want to do. This is interesting, the last person who I saw in Washington DC, a guy called Bob Williams. And it was very interesting to meet Bob Williams. He's the head of the department for working choice. He makes sure that a person with a disability gets off state benefits and into employment. But the amazing thing about Bob, he's also a guy with a disability, and he communicates through a Dynabox. Now that was the longest meeting I had, because Bob had to quest everything to get his point of view, but he got it out there. Next slide, please. And the next place I visited was Minnesota. I met Colleen Wick, the founder of Partners in Policy Making, in Minneapolis and nationally. Just the same, they do it and support people with a disability and parents with a disability to get what they want at the end of the day. I also met Matt there. He also works on the Minnesota Development Council and also went through Partners in Policy Making. I met some self-advocates. Now, the state of Minnesota has been funding Partners in Policy Making courses, self-advocacy courses for 50 years. Now that was pretty amazing to speak to the self-advocates who have been running since 2000 and go to the capital of Minnesota every week and get involved into state meetings with the governor of Minnesota and nationally. So it was quite interesting when we had that talk of what's the difference between a self-advocate in the UK and a self-advocate in the States. Next slide. I went to Toronto and I went to the International Inclusion Conference, and in Canada they are pretty in front than America, you might see, being kind of close together. They did have their own personal budget since 80, and the first person to get that was a lady called Judy Snow, and Jack Pierpoint and his wife at the time helped to get out of an institution and to live independently. And the conference was very interesting because they want to get people with a disability in the community using tools like the PATH and the maps and other tools to see what they were like and to get them in the project. That kind of inspired me to do my own project for people with a disability and without, called Journey Together for Futures. I have got some funding off OT, and the project will be running next year in July in my local authority, which will involve people without a disability and with a disability. And that came from my research of a project called Project Independence, where a great disability rights activist called Ed Roberts set up in the late 80s. I just need to, I'm using some of my Winston Churchill funding what I've got left over, and also the local authority is aware about my project, so I'll be going to them soon. Next, New York, and this is a place that I wanted to go, and you can remember, on my first path. And it was kind of wonderful to be there, and Dominic met me in Toronto, and after the first PA I went home, and then Dominic takes over. I met Dr. Beth Mount. She's a thinker, national thinker in transition, to get children into transition and employment. The main thing what was coming out when I was in America was about employment for young people with a disability. And they have got it over there. There's lots of people with a disability into employment. And there's lots of stories what Beth told me. For example, there was a story about a guy who had lots of labels, and he wanted to work in a stationery store in New York. But he did origami, and it was kind of getting popular, and they said he could put it out the front of the store because everybody wanted to buy it. She had a saying that we have to see with a different eye to what a person with a disability wants in transition. She believes the soul has its own DNA, and if we lock that soul of DNA, we get to know, we get a picture what a person wants. Everybody has gifts, and I believe in that. Everybody does have gifts. And if a person wants to there's an example what we've done over here. A person wanted to be a pilot, but we knew that because he couldn't. So we asked him what was it about being a pilot, and he said he likes the uniform and the surroundings, and he now checks people in at an airport. So if we unlock a gift, what's there? If a person's telling us that they want to do something what we know that they can't do, but what's behind the question? What they're telling us, what's behind the meaning, and what's behind what they want to do in life. And the next person I met was a guy called Bernard Calabello. Bernard, for 18 years, lived in a state institution in New York called Wellingborough. It was very famous for lots of scandals in the 80s. Bernard told me his time in there. Bernard, they thought Bernard had a learning disability. That's why he went in there. That's why his mother put him in there when he's 3 years old, because she was told by the state, forget about him, move on. Bernard, when he came out, discovered he had cerebral palsy. So it was a physical disability. It wasn't a learning disability. After when he came out of the institution, he founded the Self-Advocacy Association of New York, which I also had a meeting with them to see what they do. They go across the state of New York and to advocate for people through disability awareness to do that. But what I want to see in the UK, I want to see more people with a disability employment. So it's finding that gift and telling what they have, unlocking that soul. Next slide, please.
Excuse me, I just say you've got 2 minutes.
Okay, good. Then finish. Slide. Climbing that mountain, we all climb a mountain every day of our lives. It doesn't matter how fast or slow you get there, we all reach the top. We're almost there. So what I say to you now, it's all possible. Visible, and that support is amongst you all. And I have to say, I didn't mention, my research is on the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust website. So you type in my second name on the search and it should come up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Will. Sorry to interrupt you there,
It's
but
okay.
we are starting.